My name is David Nolan. I'm the host of Actuary Voices, the podcast from the American Academy of Actuaries. Today, I'm speaking with Stephen Abrokwah, the president of the International Association of Black Actuaries. Stephen, welcome to Actuary Voices.
David, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here, and hello to your audience.
So primarily we want to talk to you about your new role as president of the International Association of Black Actuaries. But before we get to that, I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey towards becoming an actuary, because that's something that definitely interests our listeners.
Absolutely, more than happy to do that. So I am originally from Ghana, one of six brothers. I grew up in a small town of the eastern region of Ghana called Koforidua. And following my junior high school, I relocated to the capital of Ghana, which is Accra, for high school and college. And in college, I read a double major in economics and statistics. Following that, one may wonder, after economic and statistics, what is that journey then to becoming an actuary? You often hear very diverse and yet fascinating stories of actuaries with their paths. Here's how my story was. So it was a summer after sophomore year. I had the opportunity to intern with a life insurance company in Ghana. And towards the end of that internship, I heard about actuarial science, or who an actuary was, for the first time ever. And what I heard, the ingredients were exactly what I was thinking of. So mathematics, statistics, the mixed with business and being applied to real business problems. And so I had that eureka moment, as in this was exactly what I have been looking for. And at the time I was pursuing different career options as I was about to go to my junior year. I went back to college, for junior year, and I met a couple of friends who had also just discovered the profession just like myself. So we formed this small community to start pursuing or writing the exams, more like a side project. I completed college with 2 exams under my belt. And after college, I was actually confronted with 3 different options. One was finding a path to navigate to become an actuary. Now, that path was not that straightforward, because at the time in Ghana, there were only a handful of credentialed actuaries. And as a result, the industry or profession was so much in its infancy. So there were not that many great options. The second path was to pursue the path of accounting, working with one of the big 4. That was a very prominent career path in Ghana. And the third path was to continue advanced studies in economics. I always wanted to become an economist. And interestingly, David, in the end, with my journey, I have a mix of all of the 3 paths. At the time, I started with accounting. I joined PwC. Then after a year, I decided to relocate to the U.S. To pursue a PhD in economics. And as a result, continue my actuarial path, because I knew that it was in advanced economies where the profession was more advanced, and I could then evolve and develop to become the type of actuary that I want to be. So that's what my journey looks like.
Well, that's fascinating. And I think you're almost definitely the first guest who has described doing actuarial exams as a side project. Most other people have talked about them as being challenging and intimidating and so on. But I guess if your path includes a PhD, then maybe mathematical exams can be described as a side project.
So, well, I would say, I had my own fair share of experiences, right? I did not pass every exam on the first try, but it was nonetheless a fascinating experience.
Okay. So you joined PwC, you went and you did your PhD, and then you became a credentialed actuary. What path did you take after that? What became your driving force?
Absolutely. So for me, when I was in my final year of my PhD program, I had the opportunity to intern with Swiss Re. And after that, I had the opportunity to join them on a full-time basis. And so I took that on. I entered the reinsurance industry, which has been a super fascinating path. Now, when you talk about my driving force, for me, I think about my why or my purpose. I remember embarking on a leadership development program with Swiss Re a number of years ago. And through a number of reflections and introspections, I came up with this personal purpose statement, which is to leverage my passion and compassion to inspire others to fulfill their potential. In my mind, or from my perspective, purpose really transcends beyond self, but also I think there's the element of you cannot give what you do not have. And so for me, in as much as I bring a lot of passion as well as the people element, I also have been on this constant journey of becoming the best version of myself, right, in whatever circles I find myself, in order to be able to give that which I have then to, the audience or the people that I serve.
Great. And you did ask me at this stage to ask you about a fun fact. So have you any fun facts about your journey?
Yes. So fun fact, one that I usually go to more often is my initials. I'm not sure how many people know, but my initials are SOA, just like the Society of Actuaries. And one would have thought that, that should have earned me some honorary FSA, but no, I went through the journey like everybody else.
No. Well, if your initials had been AAA, we would have made you a member in a second.
There you go. I like that. I like that.
Okay, so you started working at Swiss Re, and that's, I believe, where you still are. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the type of work you do? And
Sure. Yeah. So my current role, I serve as a key account manager within our U.S. life and health business, and in this role, I own the P&L, but also drive strategy for a portfolio of large client relationships with Swiss Re. And I also lead, in addition to that, a strategy for Swiss Re's U.S. life and health traditional reinsurance business. I would say that when I started out with Swiss Re, I started as a marketing actuary, or you can think of it as a client-facing actuary, leading technical actuarial consulting work, as well as client deal processes.
Right. And what do you find personally fulfilling about your role?
Yeah, so my role is one that I enjoy a lot. And what do I mean by that? Reinsurance by design, it's more of a hybrid of direct insurance as well as consulting. And it allows you to be able to bring to bear both engaging with a client, solving real problems, but also some technical work. And that's something that makes no 2 days the same, and keeps me on my toes, but also makes it fascinating. For me, I get a lot of joy from solving real client problems, helping our clients to deliver on their ambitions, whether it be providing some form of risk sharing to help them manage volatility, solutions to address surplus strain, various capital management, balance sheets, or income statement needs, or technology solutions. I mean, I think it ranges, and that's what makes it very fascinating. A lot of our clients also look to us for a lot of benchmarking and insight, and it's really rewarding when you see the value that we bring to clients to help them deliver on their ambitions.
And working in the reinsurance field, I imagine you mostly work with other large insurance companies. Is that right?
That is correct.
The work of an actuary can vary from individual work up to work with massive companies, but your answer shows that one doesn't necessarily need a personal connection with an individual to find the work very fulfilling.
Yeah, so I mean, if you think about it, Swiss Re, our mission statement is that we make the world more resilient. If you think about what reinsurers do, we are essentially an extension of direct insurers. The promises that we make to the general population and the insured population, essentially, reinsurance is what enables it to come to life. And reinsurance, it's leveraged as one of the most important risk management tools that direct insurers are able to kind of leverage. And so, whilst we might not, or I might not be at the very front end engaging with the individual consumers, we are able to, have that through the engagement and the support with the direct carriers to allow them to be able to fulfill those promises and those needs ultimately.
Great, thank you. If it's okay, I'd like to now move on to your volunteering work, which is, I imagine, quite extensive. Stephen, you recently became president of the International Association of Black Actuaries, the IABA. Congratulations on that. I wonder if you could tell our listeners about the IABA, its history and its major focus.
Thank you, David. And maybe I'll start with a little bit about the IABA. So the IABA is a 33-year-old non-for-profit actuarial organization. We hit 33 years this year. Our mission is to increase the number of successful Black actuaries through various programming as well as partnership. When I think at the big picture level, I view our efforts and our mission as an extension of the efforts of the broader actuarial community, be it the SOA, the CAS Academy, just to highlight a few. In its efforts to increase awareness more broadly in the world around us, and to increase ultimately the pipeline of credentialed actuaries, right? Diverse credentialed actuaries that mirror the population that we serve. Our journey over this 33-year period, in my mind, has been remarkable. So we moved from a group of 65 individuals at our inaugural annual meeting in 1992 to in excess of 600, fast forward 2024's annual meeting. Within this period, our membership count per our database goes in excess of 3,000. When you look at the metrics of credentialed members, we moved from a number of 80 in that same year, 1992, to close to 700 at the end of 2024. And these are numbers that also lines up more generally with the SOA and CAS data. And so you look at these numbers and one might say that there's been a remarkable growth story. And I would agree to that. That said, we still have a long way to go. When you look at our overall representation, we still account for about less than 3% of all credentialed actuaries, which shows that whilst a lot of great work has been done, there's a lot more that needs to be done. There's one data point that was comforting when I saw through conversations that we've had with our partners, and which is when you split these metrics of representation and you look at more recent credential members, the numbers immediately begin to improve. And one example is if you look at the CAS data, a third of all credential Black actuaries happened or came into the fold in the last 5 years. And that tells us that there's a lot of progress that has been made with all the efforts that happen, but it still shows that, we still have a lot more work to do. So that's at a high level who we are. And I'm happy to go into strategy if that's the direction you wanted to go.
Just as a matter of interest, do you have a sense that, say, over the last 5 years, that the number of UCAS members better represents the Black population in the United States?
Yes. I think we are still far off. We are still way far off. But if you look at the representation across all credentialed CAS members, focusing on CAS for a moment, relative to the more recent, right? The more recent is showing a higher trend compared to the overall. So we are on the right trajectory, but a lot still remains to be done.
Let me take a moment to remind listeners that you're listening to Actuary Voices, the podcast from the American Academy of Actuaries. On this podcast, we talk to Academy volunteers and leaders, as well as friends of the Academy, about what excites them about their work. both professionally or as an Academy volunteer. Please subscribe to Actuary Voices on your preferred podcast platform. Now, back to my conversation with Stephen Abrokwah. So, well, tell us a little bit about where you focus your efforts to recruit new actuaries from various communities.
Sure. Maybe I'll take a step back and talk a little bit about our strategic plan, of which a lot of our focus also is around the awareness and pipeline. And so our strategic plan for the next couple of years, we've themed the journey to greater impact, building on the foundations of all that we have done over the last 3 decades to get us to where we are. We are looking for more tailored and intentional ways to be able to have even greater impact on the efforts that we are doing. And that led us to take a step back and review our strategic plan and make it more aligned to our mission. And so today we have 3 pillars within our strategy. The first is all things awareness and pipeline. I think that's what you were talking about, which is looking for ways to organically increase the pipeline, but also address some of the barriers to entry, which we've seen from a study like the one that the JCID did. And over there, we have various programming, and I'll highlight a few examples. One is our scholarship program, which is a very popular program for our student members. And by the way, one of the barriers to entry that was identified in that study I referenced was financial, right? And so the scholarship really goes a long way to help there. And we have exam prep programs that creates a community to help our student members to be able to pass exams. We have bootcamp programs that helps to groom these students who are looking to enter or transition into the profession. But maybe to come to your question about efforts to engage with colleges and all, we've had various programs in the past, one of which is the Ambassador Program. And then we had another program we call the DATE Program that maybe I will start with the Ambassador Program. The Ambassador Program was one that paired our corporate partners with various colleges to tap into their resources and expertise to help amplify the work that we do when you look at awareness, but also increasing the pipeline. And we are also looking at efforts to engage with the college professors, the high school teachers, but also look to establish groups like affiliates at the campus level to help create that community that becomes an extension of what we do more corporately as an organization. So that's the first pillar and one that we really focus on. 2 other pillars I'll quickly highlight. I talked about all the good work that we've done on the awareness and pipeline front that has brought us where we are today. But one of the things that we realized was that we have also a good and a growing number of experienced members who are not being catered for in a more robust or holistic way. And so that led to the creation of a pillar called Impact and Member Development. We have a committee that is dedicated to this pillar or strategy. And the idea is to look for ways to amplify the work of our experienced members, but also to find ways to help them grow and develop in their respective careers. So 2 things I would highlight is we are launching a leadership development program this year to help our members that are looking to grow in their careers into middle management or senior leadership as our efforts to try and raise the profile of our members. We also have a program that we are calling a program series that we call Coffee Conversations. And what it is essentially is creating the forum for our membership, experienced members, to have access to various senior executives around the industry to, one, get exposure to their stories and what they had to navigate to get to the levels that they are. But secondly, to be able to allow our member actuaries to get access to different practice areas that might not be areas that actuaries get exposed to on a daily basis. The last pillar is what we are calling operational excellence. And what this is think of it as it is the amplifier or the enabler of the first 2 pillars. And it speaks to leveraging data-driven approaches to tell our stories of impact, right, of the first 2 pillars. So that's a little bit about our strategy and a few examples of things that we are doing to move the needle within the profession.
Right. So it sounds like we've got 2 main focuses. One is increasing the pipeline, bringing more people into the profession. And then once they are in the profession, ensuring that they get the best chance to be their best selves and rise in the profession.
Absolutely.
So tell me, do you focus mainly on universities and colleges where there's an existing actuarial science program? Because I know there are dozens around the country. Or do you go looking in new areas?
That's a good question. I would say that the low-hanging fruit obviously is the HBCUs and universities and colleges that have a good proportion of members or potential members. That said, we have city affiliates that are spread across the nation and also in Canada that are a mouthpiece or an extension of the efforts that we are doing at the corporate level, but also at the college level. And so they are able to tap into local high schools or colleges, whether they may be HBCU or not. Because at the end of the day, when I go back to my initial comment, I view our work as an extension of the profession's goals, which is increasing awareness to ultimately increase the pipeline in general, but then obviously also increasing the diversity within the pipeline.
Yes, you hit on a kind of a raw nerve there, because one of the biggest complaints, for want of a better word, that I hear from actuaries is that so few people know what they do. That when you say you're an actuary, and people have wildly different views of what actuaries do, but often they don't actually reflect reality. And the Academy is working on a short movie script at the moment, which is the 7 actuaries in your life, because
I love that.
we reckon there are, any random individual in the United States, there are 7 actuaries who touch upon their lives at various stages. So, trying to generalize the information and educate people about what actuaries do is a key part of it. And hopefully that will then lead again to increasing the pipeline and making people more interested in becoming actuaries.
I like that. I mean, I couldn't agree more, David. If you take a sample of 10 or 100, you would realize that close to more than half will have no clue who an actuary is. And even the remaining subset, some have heard about the name, but might not really know who we are or what we do. So I could not agree more.
It's a long project, but it means I might have a job for quite a while.
That's right. That's right.
So we talked about the IABA strategic plan. You're coming to Washington, D.C. this year for your annual meeting at the beginning of August.
We are, and we are theming it homecoming, the journey to greater impact. Going back to my point, it was the city where we hosted our inaugural annual meeting, and so we are very excited and pleased to be coming back to Washington, D.C. the first week of August.
Yeah, I attended my first IABA annual conference last year in Philadelphia. And I can assure you, it was unlike any other actuarial conference I've been to. In a totally positive way, it was very refreshing. I urge anybody who's in the DC area or even further afield that they should come to the event. Is there anything else you want to tell us about IABA's work?
Yeah, I would say that a lot of focus, again, going back to our strategy that I articulated, what we realized when we were doing the strategic review was in the past, we had spread ourselves a bit thin and looking at different angles. And what we are trying to do different now is to try and focus. And that was why we looked at building our strategy around really our mission. And so from our perspective, less is more, and it's about having impact to be able to move the needle. And so when we talk about the awareness and pipeline, we are looking for different ways to have even greater return on the same activities that we do, whilst we find new ones to complement to be able to move the needle. On the impact and member development side, also looking at how can we tell our stories of impact rather than just having various initiatives or activities. Because at the end of the day, I think any organization is measured by the progress and the impact that they are having. So I think that's kind of the lens with which we are looking at things and making sure that we are tapping into the resources of our volunteers more judiciously to be able to move our mission forward.
Sounds good. And I'm a big fan of the less is more. By spreading yourself too thin, it does mean that you become less effective. And focusing on some short-term gains can give people the impetus to expand and plan on bigger goals in the future. I'd like to move wider now, if I may, and wonder if you have any thoughts about some of the challenges of the profession as we look towards the mid 2020.
Sure. So a number of challenges jump to my mind, and I'll broaden the profession to say profession slash industry. And of the challenges, I will probably let me highlight these three. So first, we are right in the midst of the economic uncertainty or the instability or volatility that we are all experiencing today. And there are a number of economists, having an economics background myself, who are fearing the possibility of stagflation, which is a phenomenon that defies traditional economic models, which says that inflation and unemployment are inversely related. Again, this could have downstream impact on the insurance industry, as an example, and could have potential impact on lapse and policyholder behavior. And so that's something that I think as an industry we need to continue to pay more close attention to. There is obviously, when we look at the profession, the challenge of the competition or the war on potential talent, right, with all of the adjacent STEM fields that are also tapping into the same population that have the capacity to become actuaries. And so I think that's where it's important for us to find new ways to be able to attract the young and talented individuals that could come and enhance the profession and be the future of the profession. I would also highlight from a life insurance and mortality perspective, there's been a continued watch of the long-term impacts of the COVID pandemic, right? Whilst long past, there still continues to be lingering impacts on things like mortality improvement and other variables. But also there's a phenomenon that started close to a decade ago that we call accelerated underwriting. And today we are beginning to see a lot more mortality experience emerge. And there's a lot of mortality slippage that is emerging. So this is one that actuaries that practice on the life side are continuing to pay a close attention to. So these are just a few examples of some of the challenges, the many challenges that the industry or profession is facing. But I will add that whilst there are challenges, David, they also present opportunities, right? And I think that it's a moment for actuaries to be able to evolve and adapt and take these as opportunities.
Sure, and perhaps develop new products that better meet the needs of people moving forward. Because I know on the P&C side, the property and casualty side, increasing wildfires and damages from tornadoes are also increasing. Stephen, we're getting close to our end time here. Is there anything you'd like to conclude with?
David, I will first say thank you once again for having me. It's been a pleasure and an insightful conversation. So thank you. To wrap up, I will describe the industry or the profession to be in what I term as the VUCA environment. And the VUCA is a term that it's used in various industries, including the leadership, which represents volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. When we look at areas like the macroeconomic environment, the regulatory, technology, innovation, just to highlight a few. And so it's an interesting time to be an actuary, to be in the profession. And whilst these are uncertain times, as I talked about the VUCA environment, at the same time, I acknowledge and reckon that actuaries are best positioned of all actors within the world around us, having that right skill set to be able to evolve, redefine ourselves, and become resilient. And so I look forward to what the rest of 2025 and beyond has in stock for us. But I do hope that as a profession in an industry that we take full advantage of the times we find ourselves in to help shape the future ahead of us.
Today, I was speaking with Stephen Abrokwah, President of the International Association of Black Actuaries. Stephen, thank you so much for your time. My name is David Nolan, and I'm the host of Actuary Voices, the podcast from the American Academy of Actuaries, which is celebrating its 60th anniversary this year. Please visit our website, actuary.org, for a wealth of information about the work that the Academy does. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn as well. And of course, please subscribe to this podcast on your preferred podcast platform.